All right, I hear you. I'm doing it. Who's ready to go see what kind of mischief we can get into today? Welcome back, everybody. It is old Biggish Mike out here in the Hoopty Barn. And what am I doing? Yeah, we're back on the Green Goblin. Finally. And where'd we leave off? Oh yeah. Got our headers all wrapped. Put some of that silicone high temp paint on there, all that fun stuff. And so now I'm gonna get up underneath here and I'm gonna see if I can't get these headers put back on, and we'll move along from there. Well, alrighty then. We got one side. So I got my header in and tightened down, and I double checked the torque on my rocker assembly. Got my spark plugs in. This one here is going to be my problem child, because that dude took like 10 minutes. That extra wrap on that header and all that stuff, that's like tight. So anyway, and put the new valve cover gasket on there. Those of you who saw when I was down at Joe's, we were working on getting this thing running. It had a little drip, 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 drip. So went ahead and put a new valve cover gasket on there. So next, I reckon, I can get the light back. Next, we're going to move over here and we're going to reassemble this. I'm still waiting on my dadgum adapter for my steering, but I'm just going to go ahead, put this back together, get my starter put back in and all that. Actually, I might go ahead and just take off my master cylinder and all that. I got my new manual master cylinder here, and yeah, let's just go that route instead. We'll go ahead and go get a bite to snack, and then I'll get out here and take off that power brake booster, since we're not going to have power brakes anymore, and we'll get that done. So be back in a minute. Okie dokie. So we got the master cylinder and brake booster out. So here's the fun next thing, is I got to get this to kind of line up with this. So I got some drilling and matching up and such to do, because none of those holes match. So yay, I guess we'll get it in the vise. So that turned out to be a chore. That was not easy. But there she is. She is in there. And the travel is just right. And tomorrow I'm gonna bleed it. There's no need to bench bleed it when I can just bleed it right there, kind of like bench bleeding. And then we'll hook her up and do all that, and then we'll continue onward and see if we can't get the header back on, starter and all that, and see how far we get tomorrow. So here we go again. And just like that, it's another day. So back to this. I'm gonna get this thing bled, maybe. Ouch. First time I've had it open. Yeah, we'll put some stuff in there and we'll get her bled, and then we'll hook up our lines and see if we can bleed the brakes and move on to the next thing. So off we go again. Alright, so here's my version of a bench bleed. So got her up there and we got all the bubbles out. Just slowly depressing that pedal and no more air bubbles. So I believe we are good to go. We're going to hook up some lines. So, as y'all know, sometimes plans change, kind of. Well, I mean, plans going forward. But I was trying to bleed my brakes here. They would not bleed. So I decided to take it apart right here where the hard line and soft line connect. And boy, I was having a hard time getting it apart. And apparently I had a clog there, and I'm just like, man, that old steel line. And I think it's probably going to be pretty important that we be able to stop this sucker. I mean, because it ought to go fast. Probably want to stop pretty fast too, just in case. So we're going to go ahead and change out the brake lines. It's got brand new brake lines going to the back, so might as well change out the ones to the front, the important ones. So that's where we're at now. And just like that, there's a brand new brake line running across there. And we got her all bled out. And she's all capped off and topped off. Seems to have a tight pedal. Imagine when we drive it, we'll have to do some adjustment. But anyway, it's done for now. So now, I want to see if we can't get all this put back together. Before I do that, I'm going to tape this back up, because when we had it down there at Joe's, before we had these headers wrapped, they got awful hot. And it was just melting all the tape off. So I'll get that taped up and get our starter and header and all that back on and see where we're at. Man, time flies when you're having fun. So I come to the end of another day, and well, I got this header in and the starter in down there, and I totally forgot that my steering box down here, it was just sitting in there. It wasn't even bolted down. Thought, you know what, it might be a good idea for that thing to be kind of, you know, locked in place or something before I try to drive it. That's what I got done. Still got a ways to go, and tomorrow's another day, so I'm just gonna, it worked. It's another day. How about that? So that's where we were yesterday. Where are we today? Well, we are up under there. Why? Well, what y'all didn't see in some of the footage when I went down to see old Just Mopar Joe, we put fuel in this thing. It's a brand new fuel tank, all that stuff, everything's brand new in there. But I had some fuel spillage when I got it up there, and so we had to siphon some of it out, you know. But anyway, I got to figure out where that's coming from. It was like it was coming from the top of the tank. So I don't know if it's on that sending unit, that little gasket or whatever, or the donut on the filler neck, or I don't really know. So what I do know is it has to be addressed. So I'm going to address that first, and then we'll see where we go from there. All right, so we're up under here. We're going to take this fuel tank down, and I had to disconnect my air shocks, and I was going to do that anyway because I'm going to run individual. I've noticed that this spring over here is flattened out more so than that one over there. And, you know, to give it an even stance, figure, well, we'll just run them individual and see how that goes. So, all right, we'll drop this thing down and see what we got. Okay, so I think it's this filler tube donut right here. And the reason I think that is because when I do this, I mean, it's got quite a bit of slack in it. And the reason, and what I'm going to do to make sure, and see, it's a little bit kind of flake. Oh, that's just paint. Never mind. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, put some floor dry down here, and I'm going to go ahead and pour some gas in here since I've got this tank lowered to this point. I mean, it's not all the way off. I don't want it to fall off. I'll just tighten them up enough where it ain't going to slip, but I'm going to see if it pours out there. And if that is the case, then I'll just address this, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I wasn't wrong. I was mistaken. Not coming out of there. It's definitely coming from up top. Somewhere up there. Because it's running down off of the front. So I'll have to drop this whole thing down and move my floor dry over here. Get this cord out of the gasoline. So, yay. So I figured before I go trying to drop that thing, we'll just go ahead and get that fuel back out of there, and yeah. So, you know, you get a lot further if you don't shoot yourself in the foot. So I got the old tank down, got my mess all cleaned up under there. Plugged this off to see if it was leaking around here, and I tilted it, and I found out that I'm an idiot. So, you ready to see what the idiot did this time? I told y'all I'm not a freaking mechanic, and I muddled my way through. And sometimes I do dumb things. Well, this is one of the dumbest things I've done. So I got the air shocks under there, got the air shock lines under there. Well, I drilled in along the flange on my tank. Well, apparently, when I got here on the back, I got too close into where it was crimped, and that's where she's leaking. She's leaking where I drilled holes for my stupid air shocks for the line, for the little clips. So what am I going to do about that? Well, I'm going to empty that tank out. I'm going to pull that tank outside. I'm going to weld those little holes. I mean, I'm going to clean it real good. I'm going to weld those little holes. And then I'm going to test it again and make sure it's not leaking. And then I'm going to put it back up in there. And I'm going to put my clips in a little different spot. Idiot. Okay, so she is back up under there and she is not leaking. Yay. So, next, I'm going to go ahead and reroute my air shocks. And I got the one hooked up because all I had to do was just take off this little junction and all that and just hook direct to it and went over the top of the tank. So this one, I'm going to set up one line. I figure I got too many cracks and stuff in here. I'll lose these little bitty O-rings. I had to get me something to lay out my stuff on here. Yeah, how about that? Alright, we got our sexy little fillers there. Got our shocks hooked up individually. Sorry about the noise, but it is getting hotter than the hinges of Hades in here. I had to turn on my little fan down there. And now we're gonna get this drive line up in here and see if we can't get her ready to rock and roll. Okay, well, we have a drive line and it's really good. I happen to notice though that I seem to be missing something. Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, my pinion snubber. I was like, I'm probably going to want that whenever I get ready to launch. So, yeah. Alright, so we're getting some stuff done today. Let's get something else done. We still got a little time. It's hot, but yeah, got to get done. We got this from Speedway Motors. Since I'm going to be trying to run them slicks, I think I'm pretty much required to have a drive shaft loop. So I'm going to try and figure out how to put this silly thing in there, and I don't know. We'll make it work. Woohoo! I'm a real race car. Alright. Got our drive shaft loop in. And I believe she is good to go. So, yay! Alrighty. Well, she's getting dark on us again. It is the end of another day. And I did one more thing. I went ahead and got my overflow tank put in there. It is pretty heinous because it was cracked up, and I went ahead and plastic welded it and put plastic epoxy. So sticking with the Hoopty Barn motif, and I'm gonna have to tie my line up here somehow or another. But anyway, we got a coolant tank, and you know, I think I'm going to go ahead and leave this video here for now because we covered a lot and getting really close, and I'm tired. So I guess do me a favor, if you ain't subscribed yet, go ahead and do it, and give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Say, you big dummy, you ain't no race car driver. And I'll tell you, you know what, you are correct, I ain't no race car driver, but I'm gonna race this dude just because. So till next time, y'all keep watching. I'm gonna keep working.